All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Brotherhood podcast. Hey, Kara, what's going on?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to us again.
Thanks for being back again.
Sure.
I'm to the point now where I'm not even going to introduce you. I'm just going to say, hey, Kara, what's up? Everybody knows who you are.
Right? Good. Yeah.
We're
at that level now.
We're at that level. Where we're just doing the co-host thing, right?
That's right. I'm the Robin to your Howard Stern. Trying to keep it all together.
That's funny. That's good. I like that. The Robin to the Howard. I thought you were going to say I'm the Robin to your Batman, and you throw in the Howard.
You wish.
And
you wish you were as cool as Batman.
And you throw in the Howard Stern.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
That's cool. I like that.
More accurate than Batman in your case.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so we do have a guest today, and I'm going to let you introduce our guest.
Yes, joining us today, we are very fortunate to have Joe McLaughlin, who is currently serving in the United States Air Force, and he's taking time out of his very busy Air Force schedule to talk to us. Joe is actually a fireman as well. He's in the volunteer service with Cazenovia Fire in Central New York, the real upstate. And he joined the service as a junior member. And we're going to talk a little bit about junior membership today. And we're also going to talk about mentorship and the viewpoint of somebody new to the fire service that has had the benefits of having a mentor. So we're going to talk about that today and whatever else, probably like shooting squirrels, or whatever else comes, hunting, whatever else comes to Joe's mind. We're going to pick his young brain.
Cool. I like it.
So welcome, Joe.
Joe, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. I noticed a little bit of sarcasm in Kara's voice. See, we've done this enough where I pick up on the sarcasm as it's coming out. Like I don't even have to wait for the full sentence anymore, and I know the sarcasm is coming. I'm starting to get a little worried about my mental state.
Yeah.
Fine. Everything's fine.
But welcome to the show. If you would not mind, just she gave you a pretty good introduction, I think, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit about, you and how you got involved in the fire service and what you're doing now and where you hope to go from here.
Sure. So the basics about me, like she said, I'm from upstate New York, the real upstate. I served in the same department as Kara does. Like she said, I joined when I was 16. I'm just turned 19 this past August, so I've been in for about 3 years. I got into the fire service, kind of a family legacy kind of thing, like you hear all the time. Father served, both grandfathers kind of thing. Lived right across the street from the firehouse, so I got a lot of experience, a lot of training. If I wasn't in school, I was at the firehouse. So I got brought up in the firehouse as a kid and kind of carried on. And when I joined, currently, like she said, I'm serving in the Air Force. I'm stationed in Maryland, so I'm not as active as I could be because of COVID. I can't get up to New York. But if I'm going to be in town, I hope I can still respond and stuff. And I plan on continuing my fire service career while I'm in the Air Force down here. So
Awesome.
That's kind of my basics right now.
So you grew up in the fire service. You are what we call, I guess, a legacy firefighter, right? Grandparents or grandfathers in the service. Father, you said, was in the service as well. All same department. All grew up in Cazenovia.
Yep. So wow. My dad and his brother were both in the department. Both my grandfathers. I got multiple uncles and everybody all in the same department. So it's kind of a long-lasting thing.
So your whole family could get together and vote Kara out, is what you're telling me. So if we
something like that.
So if I ever come to a crossroads here where I have a bone to pick with her, you're the guy I need to speak to, and we can start the campaign, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of people that might back that.
Wow, we're just gonna start right off like this.
Oh yeah,
right off. Nice. It's 7:07. Perfect.
Listen. When you start off hot with the sarcasm, it's going to come back quick. So,
yeah.
All right, so I want to dive in. I absolutely want to spend some time today on mentorship, right? Because that's where you guys kind of connected, other than obviously being, in the same town, in the same
Right.
department, all that stuff. But how did that come together?
Joe, you want to talk about when you joined, how you got a mentor?
Yeah, so the best way so when I joined, obviously, like I went to the building. I mean, I knew most of the older guys because my
Mhm.
father, obviously, I grew up knowing his friends. So I didn't know many of the people that, the younger guys and stuff. So I was kind of a little hesitant making friends, whatever, but I was eager to get in and start training. So um, I was kind of feeling out, seeing who I liked and who the hard chargers were, and kind of seeing who had their head on their shoulders and stuff like that. I started my first class within the first year of joining, within a couple months, and I went to basic exterior firefighter operations BFO,
Mhm.
and the first class our instructor said, if you guys don't have a mentor at the fire department, you need to have one. So to me, I was like, well, all the people that I know are my mentors, but I don't have, that one person who's going to be there to push you and train you. So from what I had already seen, Kara had been kind of like the mom to all the young guys in the fire department. So I was like,
Ah,
I don't know if
she's
that's
a
a
hard
compliment.
charger.
That
She's
might
got
not be a compliment. Let's go
so
with hard charger and leave it at that. Okay.
we
okay.
could go with the hard charging mom if you want. I'm fine
The
with that.
mom.
That
Great.
works. Right. Go ahead.
But
I'm
anyway,
sorry.
so I picked her out. I said to her, like, pretty much like, hey, I see you've already been helping me as a mentor, but can you be my official mentor? Say you're my mentor and whatever. So I went to the chief and he said, yeah, absolutely. And she's been my mentor since then. Even though I'm no longer a junior member, she's still
Been
like,
replaced.
I don't technically need a mentor anymore, but she's definitely still a mentor beyond the junior level. So
So let's. All right. I like this. This is good stuff.
Jesus.
Where? Don't get. She's all nervous. She's sitting there.
This
She's
was
like,
a
wait.
terrible idea. Whose idea was this?
Well, so there's a lot going on in this, which is cool, right? Because obviously you're somebody that grew up around the firehouse. You got multiple family members, right? You could pretty much go to anybody you wanted to be your mentor as somebody new coming in, but you opted to kind of go outside of what would be normal and comfortable for you, right? Because look, I've been around the block a few times. I've seen all different types of junior or age restricted members, whatever we need to call them in today's day and age, right? Age restricted members come in, and some are gung ho, want to learn like yourself, want to jump right in with both feet, and then and then there's the kids that come in that are like, yeah, I kind of want to do this, but let's go with the path of least resistance, and I'll have my uncle be my mentor, because
Right.
they might show you, they're going to show you the ropes, but they might not push you like somebody else would, somebody from the outside, I should say.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess from that, like I said, when I joined, I dove right in. So like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I could be at the department, I would be, training calls, whatever it had to be. And it was kind of like, although like I said, Kara wasn't my assigned mentor,
Mm-hmm.
she was helping me at training. She was helping other people, and I could already see that she had those mentorship qualities, that you kind of look for in somebody. And I was like, it was kind of like an already unofficial mentor, but
Right.
to say like, all right, you're my mentor now, and she kind of ramped it up even more, motivating me to get in the gym, go work out, um, on calls, helping me through stuff, whatever it was. She kind of just took that mentorship to another level. But there are those attributes that you look in a mentor, somebody who's determined, somebody who's motivated. Not only like, you can't motivate somebody if you're not motivated yourself.
Ooh.
So
Preach. I love it.
when I saw that in her,
Yeah.
somebody like, you say the word hard charger, somebody who's a hard charger, they're determined, they're motivated.
Right.
I saw that in her and I was like, that's who I want to be as a firefighter. I wanted somebody who would eventually reflect on me and make me into the firefighter that I wanted to be. So I saw that in her and I was like, this is already going to work out. So.
Kara, you're smiling over there.
Aw. My God.
The-
What the hell, Joe?
So how did you receive this? I mean, look, I know you, I think, fairly well from, our online relationship that we have through the podcast and everything else.
Right.
But how did you, when Joe came to you and was like, hey, listen, I see what you're doing. You're kind of you're helping me out already just based on watching you, but, can we make this, can you actually be my mentor?
Yeah.
First of all, had that ever happened before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I had been asked to mentor some of the younger and newer members, because it's not always about age, right? So
Sure.
Prior to Joe, I had another younger guy that came in, and Sam, and I had mentored with him. So mentorship can look really different, I think, in whatever department that you're in. For our department, as Joe talked about, it's a little bit of being that go-to person that you can talk to, and help you out in the trainings, help you out at the station, meet up with you during off training times to go through the rigs with you. Like there's a lot of that going on. The other aspect of that is in our county classes, they do require you to have a touch point or a mentor on the books there too. And so the mentorship program in our department, I would say, is developing, and we've kind of tried to put some more parameters into it than we prior had, because as Joe talked about, sometimes it's just somebody that you just kind of connect with and hook up with, and that's like your buddy or whatever. When I joined, I had a mentor that was assigned to me by my lieutenant at the time, Phil Burns, who I know if people follow me on Instagram, they've seen me talk about Phil. And, he's like the quintessential senior man of the fire department. Like he's never held, to my knowledge, a position as an officer, but he knows everything.
Right.
He knows everything. He knows where everything is. He knows what you're supposed to do. He is patient. He's level-headed. And, he's become, through his mentorship of me at the fire service, he's become like a second dad to me. Now Joe's like, well, she's like the mom person, and I have these other guys that are like the dad people, But that, I think on some level, that's what mentorship should be about. It should be about, a relationship where you're showing the person that you are invested in their success. And so when Joe approached me and asked if we, could have an official mentorship, I said, yep, I just got to check with the leadership. They were on board with it. And we started, and as he said, I started to take it very seriously, and started to ramp up. So, anything that he needed for his courses, if, he had to check off his skill sheets, I was like, yep, let's go. When are we going to be at the department?
Right.
The fitness part of it, I was very pleased and impressed that someone Joe's age, Joe's an athlete. He was a multi-sport athlete all through high school, right, Joe?
Yeah, 3 sports.
3-sport athlete, varsity athlete.
Football, baseball, and wrestling. So.
Yes. And honor society? What is it? Honor society?
Yeah.
I think it's not.
Scholar athlete. We like to call
Yes.
them scholar athletes in
like
our part of the state.
Right. So he really took to the fitness stuff and took it very seriously. And that was obviously huge for me in the work that I do to reduce line of duty deaths and improve cardiac health of firefighters. For someone like Joe coming in at age 16, to start out with that mindset that that's important and it's part of firefighting was really, really encouraging to see. And I think that was a big part of my mentorship of him is, mind, body, and soul. If you're going to be in the fire service, all those 3 components are going to be affected. So we've got to make sure that your mind is healthy, your body's healthy, and your soul's healthy. And
Absolutely.
and that was kind of my focus. That is my focus whenever I'm mentoring anybody in the department. I just finished out with another mentor who, our mentee rather, who went off to college, and there's a little bit about who's the better mentee. There's a little shit talking going on
Maybe.
between Joe and Isaac. But Isaac was, he's another one that, and I think that him watching Joe as a junior, when Isaac, my most recent mentee, came in as a junior also, he kind of took a page out of Joe's book, and he was like, yeah, this is all important and this is all good stuff. So that was,
Very cool.
that was really cool too.
Very cool. Is that me? What is that?
Yeah, it's not me.
I don't know.
What'd you eat?
No.
Oh, there was some motorcycles going by. That's my bad.
Okay.
Oh, it's Joe.
Yeah.
So, Joe, as you were, starting off in the fire service, how did the mentorship and working with Kara help you throughout those beginning years as a firefighter?
So to touch point on I'm going to do a little I've been able to see as a junior member, other juniors from other departments, and especially through social media, TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. So you see,
TikTok.
you kind of see the junior, the youth in the fire service and where their mindsets are and other people. But having a mentor who keeps you on track, a lot of juniors when they join, not a lot, I would say a majority are, they didn't grow up in the firehouse. They didn't grow up in the fire service. They don't know anybody. So you come into the firehouse and it's you're kind of expected to have some kind of background. So that they're nervous. They don't know anybody. Having a mentor that comes in is hey, we're going to walk through this. We're going to get the basics down and work on from there. So for me, I had a little bit of a background, but I had a couple of those skills that, unless you're actually in the service doing the training, you're not going to know that. So I could go to Kara and say, hey, I know the basics of this, but I want to get this, I want to get this down, muscle memory. So what do I have to do? But for somebody who's never done the fire service, whether you're a junior member or regardless of your age,
sure.
If you're brand new to the fire service, having somebody who's a mentor, the senior man, like she talked about, that will just kind of guide you in the right direction, can make or break a recruit. That's, you guys talk about retention in previous episodes. If somebody comes in and they're like, I want to do this fire service thing, but all the guys who have been there don't give them the time of day. They're kind of yeah, okay, this guy doesn't, having a mentor who's all right, I'll come in with you. We'll meet. We'll get this stuff down. Can make or break them. They're going to either say this is for me, or they're going to say, I don't have anybody who's showing me this isn't for me. So when I joined, I had the basics a little bit, but Kara as a mentor kind of walked me through and got it so that I was proficient in stuff that I was a little hesitant about. So I think the word mentor can be used in multiple different facets.
Right.
Kara, for me as a mentor, might be different than mentors for other people, whether it's interior, exterior, EMS, whatever it is. So that's kind of how Kara played into my role, but I can see how the word mentor can be used in different ways.
Right.
It can be, and you bring up a good point. So we're kind of focusing on the younger age group right now, only because you're in that age group, but it can be just as discouraging for somebody walking in the door that's in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, like you said, especially if they have no real experience with the volunteer fire service or volunteer service at all. And, for some reason, whatever that reason is, they decide that, at this point in their life, they want to do this. And now you walk into an organization and you're like, well, maybe you know some people, maybe you don't, but you still don't really know where you fit in or what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to get involved. And, you know, the mentorship program, I would imagine plays a key role in that, because at least you're saying, all right, here's somebody that you can go to, you know, here's somebody that you can work with. Yeah. In my department, that we don't have an official mentor program, and it's probably something that we should look to work on. You know, the officers end up being the mentors, and we all know the officers kind of have enough, not that we have too much to do, but you know what I'm saying. It's
well, right. And I think it's really important to Joe's point and what we've talked about on the program before. If you want to talk about retention, mentorship is good for both parties.
Sure.
So if you've got some guys that maybe aren't in a leadership position, aren't officers, but they have a lot of experience and it's very valuable.
Yeah.
To pair them with a newer member or a junior member in particular and have them work with them, it makes them feel useful and appreciated, and it makes them feel like their skills are important and warranted, which they are. And so that goes a long way towards retention of your other members too, because, you know, after you've been in for several years and you've seen it all, and, you know, every department, career or volunteer, has drama, has cliques, has whatever.
Sure. Yeah,
you
yeah.
have all of that stuff. I think the mentorship, if you're saying to this person, hey, you know, you'd be a great match for this new member. Are you willing to not only be there at practice like you're normally required to, but, you know, can he text you? Or can she meet up with you to work on hydrant skills in the back parking lot?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do you have like a couple, you know, extra 15 minutes here and there that you could work this in? And that's really all it takes. Like just that little small amount of time is going to pay out in volumes for both your mentee and your mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to bring into that individuals are different, right?
Yeah.
So you're a pretty outgoing guy. You know, it doesn't seem like you're afraid to speak for yourself. You go and you say, hey, will you be my mentor? What have you? You know, I've got a brand new kid in the firehouse right now. He literally just turned 16. Now happens to be a friend of the family. He's been waiting to turn 16 to come join the firehouse. Like that's, you know, and he's been, you know, I've seen him for the last year. Hey, just want to let you know I'll be 16 here. And I'm like, all right, you know, cool. As soon as you turn 16, come and grab your. And it's funny because he's on a very similar, or he seems like he wants to be on a very similar track as you. So he literally just got in like a month ago, maybe 2. Right? Is chomping at the bit to take BFO. Texts me the other day, says, hey, I see there's an EMT class coming up. Can I go and be an EMT? I'm like, I'd love to say yes, but not at 16. You know, I'm sorry, you can't.
So
you know,
Joe, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the kid wants to go be an EMT at 16. He's planning on joining the Coast Guard. So, you know, again, very, very similar path. But he's outgoing, and, you know, he's not afraid to ask and engage and text me whenever he has a question. Not everybody's like that, you know, and that's it. The people that are not like that are the ones that we tend to sometimes lose if we don't have somebody for them to work with. And
sometimes that's interpreted as lack of interest or lack of motivation, and usually that's not the case.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I think the key to like what you just said is you saw him, you know, it's a friend of a family. So you had been seeing him before that 16th birthday.
Right.
Or like most members, it's like you walk in the door and it's the first time you see him and it's like, here's your turnout coat and your bunker pants, like, let's go to work. And they're like, what the hell's going on? You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, he was already engaged. And so I think the difference there is like, you get the social aspect, you know, I think when a new member joins, there's a lot of social aspect and the politics and stuff. And they're like, what is going on here? Like, what are these people meeting every Wednesday or Monday, whatever it is? Like, what are they doing? Like, I thought we just go to calls, but like when you grow up in the firehouse or you've been around friends that are firemen or whatever, you kind of get the background and you're not foreign to it's like a different language to most people. Like you can say, go grab me a a 3-foot pike pole and they're not going to look at you like, what are you talking about?
Right.
It's
Right.
like to be
Well,
in the environment a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, great point. And so, so we always meet with the prospective members. We have that investigating meeting, prior to the night they get brought into the
Yeah.
company. And a junior member, or age restricted member, has to bring a parent or their parents to the meeting, right? To sit in.
Yep.
And I always end the meeting by saying, because they're being brought in that night, and I say to the parents, hey, you're more than welcome to stay for the meeting if you want. And it's like whenever I make that statement, I'm like, oh God, this could go either way.
Yep.
Some of our meetings are like great, it's just like business. All right, they're over. Let's eat. And then, then there's the one where, we could argue over the color of this sticker for like an hour and a half,
Yep.
and I'm like, shit, these poor people are sitting in here looking at us going, this is what really goes on, and this is what my kid just signed up for, so yeah, you're right.
So Joe, when you got started and after, you got your mentor and you went through your BFO, I know you, same thing. You were like, can I be an EMT? Because we all know we're all experiencing this. And again, career or volunteer, our larger call volume, typically, unless you're in like, a big city or like Detroit or something like that, is EMS, right? So talk a little bit about your journey through that.
So, yeah, that's a great point. So I don't know about across the country or the world or whatever, but in New York, the age limit when I joined to become an EMT was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I lived across the street, and so I made everything that I could. And seeing that, 80% or 90% of our calls are EMS, like you can only write so many PCRs or push so many stretchers before you're like, I'm helping, but I want to do more. So like, my dad was not an EMS guy. None of my family was EMS. They were all, you were grabbing a booster line off the truck and you're going inside and put the fire out.
Yeah.
So I wasn't brought up in that. But when I started going on calls and I'm like, I want to help more. Like, what can I do? And I went to Karen and I was like, I want to be able to help. So she was like, well, we can't do an EMT. So I kept looking and I took my EMR class, emergency medical responder, where you only had to be 16 to take that. So I couldn't do as much as an EMT, but I started to work in my skills, medically wise, and see if it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I dove into it, and I very much enjoy EMS side of things and rescue calls. But turns out New York lowered the age to 17, like a couple months after I finished my class. But being able to get more involved in the department, going on calls and working on those skills just kind of pushed me towards even further towards what I eventually want to do in my career. But just realizing like there's multiple ways to help,
Sure.
Whether you're just the exterior guy, you're the interior and paramedic, whatever it is. If you just want to run EMS, there's multiple ways to help. But similar to your friend's scenario there, where it's like he wants to do more and more and more, but as a junior member, you're a little bit limited. But having that mentor, she was like, great, I want you to help too, but we can't quite do that. Here's what we can do.
Right.
And at the time, Kara was the rescue captain. So
oh, that's what it was. It was her Metro helmet with the Star of Life that made you want to do that. That's what it
Bingo.
was.
Ironically, that's when I had my New Yorker.
Okay, all right.
No, but like that was just another aspect where like I wanted to get my EMS skills down, and that's just another way she could mentor me, But in a situation, say I don't have her as a mentor, say I have somebody who's strictly, fire operations.
Sure.
That's another aspect where you're reaching out to somebody. You got to find somebody else who's going to work with you on those skills, and another chance for mentorship. So you got to find somebody who's going to help you out. And that goes for anybody in any department, whether you're junior or new to the EMS thing. It, like Kara said, that's paid, volunteer, doesn't matter. A majority of our calls are EMS.
Sure.
So if you're getting into new things, you're learning new skills, it's great to have somebody there. as a mentor to help you along, because
Mhm.
as we all know, a textbook can't teach everything.
No, no, no. And listen, there are multiple ways to do things. There are ways to find your way around things. This friend of mine got on ski patrol last year. So he took at well, actually before he was 16, because ski patrol you can start even younger, he went and he took his outdoor emergency technician. Now, I've been an EMT for a long time. And when I joined ski patrol much later in my emergency services career, they won't recognize EMT. So you have to challenge their program in order to be a part of, the National Ski Patrol. And literally the programs, when you sit them down alongside of one another, outdoor emergency care technician versus emergency medical technician, it's like ridiculously similar. So I have no doubt that this kid who's doing ski patrol and started last year, when he gets to the right age, he'll jump in EMT and he'll be fine. But like you said, has the skills, just had to find another path to get there.
Yeah.
Joe, can you talk about your experiences in doing work as an EMR as a junior? Like some of the impact that it had on you treating patients in that role?
Before you go there, though, just tell Kara, where does the EMR program come
So
from? Because I know somebody's going to ask that question. So
it's New York State
Okay.
Bureau of EMS, and it's was formerly called CFR,
Yeah.
Certified First
Okay.
Responder.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's the same thing. It's kind of like the entry level of the EMS world for us here in New York State, and then
Yeah.
it's MTB, and then you can do advanced EMT, and then paramedic.
So years ago, what the CFR program was very, very popular at one point in time, because there was a little bit more, well, there was some training differences between CFR and EMT. And well, I started as a CFR. I didn't jump into EMT right away because I forget how many hours it was back then, but I got my CFR. I was like, yeah, this is enough for me right now. I'm a fireman. I don't want to do, I'm not diving headfirst into EMS. Took CFR, and then a few years later got EMT. But now, so good. So anybody that was going to ask that question, there's your answer.
There it is.
There it is. Go ahead. Sorry.
So to speak on that, at least in New York State, so like you said about the outdoor emergency tech, our training as an EMR was the guidelines were neck and neck with the EMT. You're learning basically the exact same things, except you can't give meds, you can't assist with EKGs, you can't do advanced splitting, stuff like that. So there's a couple of things that were left out, but you're getting those basics, down. As a junior member, like Kara wanted me to speak to, in EMS, it's a little, it's, I guess you could say it's intimidating for some. It could be intimidating for some people when you go on calls and you have this patient looking at you and you're like, you're the one that's going to help me. Like, shouldn't you be in high school right now? And,
For sure.
like it's something where like, you're in the middle of learning school and sports and all this other things. And you have to be, that's not something that you can just say, yeah, I have my certification. That's cool. It's something you have to be practiced and skilled in, because, it's actual serious stuff. It's not like you can kind of BS your way through, doing medical stuff. So being a junior, it was a little like, you could, I guess intimidating is the best word I can put to it.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, overwhelming a little bit, but um, I don't know exactly what Kara wants me to speak to, but
Well, just talk about like as a junior. So like for me, I wasn't a junior member when I joined, right? So when I was out treating patients in the community, I was treating people that were typically older, right? We have a large older population in our area, but also I was treating children and teens, right? And so for you as a 16-year-old, some of the calls that you went on and some of the things that you saw, can you just talk about like as a younger person,
oh yeah, okay,
some of your
I see where you're
experience with
going
that?
with. All right, yeah. So there was definitely a couple scenarios where 16 is kind of that age where you're just getting in as your friends are just starting to drive, they're starting to do.
Sure.
So there was a couple calls where, you're going to run into, especially in small town America where we live, you run into a call and your friends are there, or somebody, and they're like, it's like a conflict of interest almost, not really, but you kind of
That's
have
what
to
it
get
feels
over,
like,
like,
though, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
it
I
feels
mean,
like
it
a
does a little
conflict.
bit. It's
You're
another
you're
thing you have to get over.
you're
You
rolling
have
in on
to,
the drunken disorderly, and it's your buddies. It's your buddies from the football team, and you're like, oh crap.
Right.
it's another thing you kind of have to, like, another hurdle you have to get over. You have to put it aside and say, right now I'm not buddies with these people. Right now I'm a firefighter EMR that I have a job to do here.
Sure.
Right.
So it's just another thing you have to put aside. And like Kara said, as a junior, I went on some calls that those are the tough calls. They're the ones that you're seeing stuff that it's going to stay with you. And as a junior member, it's a little bit harder, because you have to, you're not used to that stuff. Being older, you might have a little more experience in life or whatever. You've seen some stuff, but luckily for me, I had a mentor, especially Kara being a stress debriefer, that, she was somebody that I could say, hey, that one kind of got to me. Can we just, like, I just want to get this out of my head. So, like, being as young as I was and seeing some of the stuff, it's just one of those things where you had to talk it out. And fortunately, I had somebody there, you know, but I don't think that um, the things I saw as a junior member would change my viewpoint as of being a firefighter or being an EMS. It was
Right.
just like having a mentor helped me through it, and I learned from those experiences. But I could see being a junior member, not having anybody could definitely be a little rough to internalize that stuff and not be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's a great point you guys bring up, and something I didn't think of going into this, but yeah, the mentor's role, having somebody there to speak to in those difficult times, somebody that you can confide in. And look, I still don't think we as a service are great at this. I think we're getting better. We're still not great at it. We're better than we were 30 years ago. I can tell you that, but we're still not great at saying, hey, that was like, that didn't sit right with me.
Right.
I need
Yeah.
to talk to somebody about it, or can we go have a conversation? Not go drown our sorrows at the bar, but like actually go have a conversation. Go have a conversation. Yeah.
And making sure that the people that you're assigning as mentors have both. I think it's critically important for them to have self-awareness
Mm-hmm.
and be able to reflect on their interactions and how they come across to people, and how, because nobody's perfect. You're going to have interactions that don't go well with people, and that's okay. But the important thing is to say, I did not handle that well, and I need to change how I approach that.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mentors can do that, that's a level of emotional maturity that is desirable in a mentor. And then having them also have the ability to recognize others and know that other people don't deal with emotions in the same way that you might. And so being able to look for those red flags, but also just being able to say, like, hey, I've seen, I've done CPR on somebody hundreds of times or whatever throughout my, career in medicine and in the fire service or whatever. But this might have been that person's first time doing CPR
Sure.
on
Yeah.
somebody. And maybe we should just have a brief conversation about that, because,
Yeah.
you learn it on a plastic dummy. And then when you're really doing it on a human, those are the things that you, want to have an awareness of and be able to just be like, check in. And, everybody handles everything differently. Unfortunately, in this day and age, some 16-year-olds have seen a lot.
Yeah.
And, they have a level of emotional maturity due to trauma that they've experienced in other aspects of their lives. So it's not to say that every junior is going to like choke up or, have a
Right.
hard time with every call. But sometimes it's going to be, and I talked about this when I did the mutual aid episode, about critical incident stress debriefing, it's not always the obvious thing that's going to bother somebody.
Sure.
Everybody has their own trigger points, and everybody has their own experiences that shape who they are and how they deal with stress. And so it may not be the, PEDS call that went bad, or it may not be like this big, like major trauma that you saw. It may just be something that like kind of like triggers something in you that you hadn't thought about in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And now you need to like break that down so that you can be able to handle that similar call next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you guys this. So, and I don't know if Joe's a great example of this with your proximity to the firehouse and kind of growing up around the station, and how quickly were you in a BFO after you joined? What was
it had to have been probably at least at the most 4 months, I'd say.
Okay.
The next one that opened up, I was
all right.
in
So
it.
there was a little bit of time from when you joined to when you got in your BFO.
Yeah.
How do you keep the newer people engaged in that time frame that they don't have their basic training yet of any sort? All right. I know you can bring them to, let them take part in company drills and things like that. But as far as the response side of it, because these, look, I joined the fire department to be a fireman, right? I want to go on the big truck, whatever color the truck is. All right. I want to go on I want to go on the big truck, and I want to respond to the calls. And like, this is why I joined. And, sometimes there can be that gap where you're not getting on the first due. You might not even be getting on the second due, but so how do you guys operate when it comes to that aspect of it?
So what I can speak to this is like, I talked to Karen when she asked me to be on this episode. I was like, well, I don't know about every area's laws and what the rules are about, who can run on what and whatever, especially with junior members. There's a lot of,
Sure.
And, department SOGs and SOPs and whatever your guidelines are, that's going to make or break or shape a junior's experience in the fire department. So like you said, I think one of the most important things is, whether you're a junior or a new member, is keeping them engaged with drills, going through the trucks and, teaching them what they can do and what they can't do, but making sure that they know what they can do well enough where they're going to be helpful in a situation. So, I mean, I don't know all the legals or logistics.
No, I know. I don't. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I know.
I've been doing this for 30 years, and I don't know all the legals, nor do I want to.
Well, it always changes. That's the other problem.
Well, what I mean is, so I'll give you an example of how we do or try to do things in our neck of the woods. Okay, we all respond to the station, right? There's no POV. Yep. There's no POV response. All right, and I know that there's more and more departments that is their standard operating procedure now. There's still some companies out there that, due to the geographical area of their the nature of their response area or whatever, they still do POV response. But for the most part, all right, so we're responding to the station, no POV response. So somebody that had just come in maybe has a couple company drills under their belt. They have their physical, right? So we know they're fit for the job, right? Because they have their physical and they passed it. They can't get on the first due truck. All right. They're not allowed to get on the first due truck. If it's a bullshit activated alarm and the truck isn't full and the officer says, hey, come with us, they can go. Right. Because that's one of those, it's a tough, like, you don't want to always leave them standing at the firehouse, right? Because like you said,
how motivating is that?
Right. How motivating is that? And you want to feel like you're a part of something, so, we try to work it that way where, all right, they might not be able to get on the first due truck, but they can get on the second due truck, and they know that I got to work with the chauffeur or with the engineer, or I got to work with the mentor that I'm assigned with, to just kind of shadow and learn the ropes.
Yeah. So that, like you said, my proximity to the firehouse is a little different because, like, I was the first one there for most everything. Because I'm right there. So
sure,
I got what I would call the boot a lot of times. I'd be standing there fully geared up, watching other people get geared up, standing at the door of the engine,
Yep.
watching them get, if the engine got filled up, I'd run over to the tanker. But there was a bunch of times where, somebody who's qualified than me says, get the hell out of here, and they get in the engine, I go over to the tanker, the second do whatever it is. But, every time that happened to me, it's just motivation to get more training, keep going, because like, you're not gonna, like, yes, it's kind of discouraging and not motivating to just stand there and say, well, I showed up, but I didn't do anything.
Right.
But, it's like I said, it's just more motivation, because like, it made me want to be able to, go and run trucks, which I can't do till I'm older anyways, get pump ops and stuff like that, because you realize that there's a lot more roles than, that just the one that you were looking at. So I got a lot of experience riding in the shotgun seat of the tanker, running the radio or whatever it was, helping the operator.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit more experience there, but yeah, I definitely got a fair share of discouragement from saying, oh, I didn't make the first due on this one. But it's one of those things where, a mentor can play a role there too, and say, hey, I know you didn't make this one, but thanks for showing up. Like you always say, that thank you goes a long way. Like,
Yeah.
a mentor can just keep that junior motivated, so that they don't say, well, if I'm never making the truck, screw this. I've got better things to do.
And asking them what they learned, like, okay, well, you were standing next to the pump operator and on exterior operations for that whole call. What'd you learn about?
Yeah.
Where is this on the truck? And you got to go to the fill site with the mini pumper. Like, what did you learn about the hard suction that we carry? Like asking those questions to point out to them that it was valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are first due on the engine are play an important role, but there's other important roles that need to be done. And even some of the members that didn't get on the truck at all, I encourage them to stick around and hang out in the radio room, listen to the call, see what they're learning, listen to the radio operations, see how that works. And also, if we get a second call or they call for somebody to come up with the squad and bring equipment or manpower or whatever, then they're there and have that availability to do that. So I always, and when we get back, is there anything worse when you have had your ass kicked for 7 hours on a winter's night and you get back to the house and all the people that didn't make the truck they're nowhere to be found?
There's a lot of signatures on the sign-in sheet, though.
Everybody signed in and bailed, and you're gassed and you're wet and you're, freaking miserable, and there's nobody there to help you repack hose and wash out the rigs and get the salt off the trucks when the winter and all that stuff. Like that stuff is not the sexy part of firefighting, but it's it's valuable, and that's how you're going to learn what lines we used, why we use them. That's a great time to ask questions. Why did you pull this line? Why does this line get used on that call? On that fire, why did you use this? All that stuff is what the juniors or the younger members need to know. And those are that's the mindset that you have to have for success.
Absolutely.
And what I touched on a little bit earlier was like the social aspect of the volunteer fire service, for sure. Like those are the times where that's where the social aspect is brought up when you're Monday night or Monday morning quarterbacking the call. What can I pick up from what those guys are talking about?
Sure.
What went right, what went wrong, what can I pick up from this? While we're washing the trucks, like, just talking to them, learning about them, that's where you make a little bit more relationships, so that you're not a foreigner at the firehouse. You kind of become part of the brotherhood, not to be cliche, but it's not just about, you didn't make the truck, oh well, there's other things you can do. And it helps with that social aspect of becoming a member of that fire department, not just having your name on the run sheet.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have the conversation with not a lot of people anymore, but every once in a while I'll have a conversation with people here and there about the difference of everybody coming into the station versus the way we used to do things, and I still have some departments in my county that, still do the POV thing. But I remember my first call like it was yesterday,
Yep.
and we were well, it's a combination department. So the career guys always went boom right out with the truck, and all the volunteers, other than the ones that were grabbing the other trucks, were all POV response. And I'll never forget the first. I'm at my job and my pager goes off. It was 7 times the size of this one, by the way. It was like this big, right? It was like a plectron on your belt. But anyway, so I remember the thing going off, and I remember standing there like, not knowing what the hell to do, and all the guys I worked with were volunteers in other parts of the county. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, well, are you going to, and it was like right at the end of the day, it was like 5 minutes to 5. I get off at 5 o'clock. They're like, aren't you going to the call? I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. They're like, get in your car and go to the call. I'm like, okay. Is that what I'm playing? And I had this stupid little blue light, I'm like, put the thing up on my roof, yeah, one of those up on the roof. And I think about, when I look back at that time, I had no training. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. It was a motor vehicle accident on the highway, right? I'm driving my vehicle out onto the highway, right? Getting out, getting dressed, barely know how to put my shit on, and you just think about how many things in that scenario could possibly go wrong, when I reflect back on it now, versus bringing somebody brand new into the firehouse, making sure they have their gear on properly, making sure they, that they can get on a specific truck to work with somebody. There's just so much more that plays into these things that I think sometimes people miss,
Right.
They just miss the overall big picture of it.
Do we want to talk about Bike One, Joe?
Bike One. So Bike One, as it's formerly known, I suppose.
I just teasing him. So we used to joke because Joe lived right across the street, and he was, prior to Joe joining, I was typically the first one at the firehouse because I live very close as well. But then when Joe joined, I would be like pulling around the corner in my car, and he was already answering up. And I was like, how are you doing? Like, what is happening? And so we jokingly, he had his bike, and we were like, well, you gotta get you a blue light for when you cross the street. And so, he had a little blue flashy LED.
Nice.
Yep. So I went online to some police store or whatever, because they used their police bikes. I was like, all right, I just got to stick it to these guys, So
Too funny.
And I actually had somebody pull over for me one time on my way down to the station. I was like, this is ridiculous. But,
oh my God. So it was affectionately known as Bike One. Yes. Bike One responded.
That's great. We, in my old company, in the old firehouse, we had a couple guys that they were like the buffs, the town buffs, and they rode bicycles, and they would follow the fire department and the police department in the village everywhere, right? And same thing, both of them on bicycles with little flashlights on the front. One of the funniest things I ever saw was, I gotta kind of paint this picture. So the old firehouse was on a pretty busy village road, and you would have to stop traffic to back the fire trucks in, or to get the police cars in where the police cars needed to go, because the police station, the fire station were in the same building. And so it was very common to see somebody walk out in the middle of the street, right? Stop the traffic, and the trucks back in. Well, these guys roll in their bicycles one day, and literally, I kid you not, back their bicycles in, like stop and like arm up, hold track, and they're like literally back their bicycles onto the apron to hang out with the cops and the firemen to get ready for the next response.
That's go big or go home.
Yeah,
right
that is.
Well, like, growing up with my dad as a firefighter, like when he would take off tearing off the house, I would be right on his tail. Back then he had his bunker pants at the house. So I'd be standing there while he got dressed and ran out and got in the car, and I'd be right on the car's tail on my bike. I'd watch the trucks pull out of the firehouse. I'd ride my bike down to where I could see the firehouse and see where they were going.
Sure.
So like from there, I was like, it kind of changed pretty quick to where now I was actually responding to the call, on my bike versus just watching them pull out. So
wow. So Where are you looking to go from here? Obviously, you're in the service, and thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. So, to speak, like I joined the military. I don't do firefighting in the military. I
Okay.
sort of wish I did, but
Did you think
like,
about it? Just
oh
curious.
yeah, it was on. So like the Air Force, you have to kind of pick a list of jobs. It was on my
Mhm.
list as one of the ones I wanted, just didn't end up with it. But I talked to Kara a lot before I actually joined. Like I knew I wanted to serve this country, regardless. I was going to do the military, but she always told me like, you want to be a firefighter, you want to be a firefighter. Like you know it, I know it, but I was like, not really. But once I joined the military and basic training, I realized like firefighting is what I want to do. I missed it so much that I was like, that's my calling in life. So
Mhm.
right now I'm working on volunteering down here. I'm working on getting. I have to have my commander's approval before I volunteer, and hopefully, um, I'm hoping my New York certs will carry over down here so I can work on volunteering. But Kara's been helping me. I want to start working towards a paramedic. If the Air Force will pay for me to get my paramedic, that's my eventual goal. And
Awesome.
I don't know what I'm going to be doing after my 4-year stint, but there's a very good chance I'm going to be a paid fireman. I just don't know. So right now I'm working on hopefully EMT first and then paramedic so I can get that over with. But
Mhm.
I'll be still responding to calls whenever I'm up in New York.
He's got a
But
car now, though. No more bike
Can
one.
yes, no more
can
bike one.
can you move jobs within the service or no?
Yeah, so you can cross train. So
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of guys who work um, fire in the Air Force, but you can cross train. So if you want to get into that job, you can.
Mhm.
I've also talked to a lot of guys who have worked in the professional career side fire service, and they say, like having those certs are great, but sometimes departments are looking for, guys who, they didn't get trained by somebody else. They can take somebody in and train them themselves
Mhm.
the way they want. So I've got to look into, what a paid department's looking for and if the Air Force will carry over and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But I've thought about cross training into fire protection as well.
So a friend of mine, he's a few years younger than I am, but we used to be volunteers together. He went into the service. I can't remember if he was Air Force or Navy. He was one of them. He went in as a firefighter, and I got to tell you, I don't know if he listens to the show, but he'll get a kick out of this if he's listening. Um, I've kind of lived my life vicariously through this guy for like the last 20 years because he he's been all over the world. I mean, he was a fireman here locally at West Point for a while. From West Point, he took a transfer to Key West. That looked like a really tough stint when he was in Key West as a fireman.
I can
From
imagine.
I think from Key West, he went to Italy, spent a couple of years in Italy where he met his wife. Then he came back to the States, took an assistant chief's job, I think in like New Mexico or something. And now he just took his first chief's job. I want to say in like the Seattle area. But I've watched this guy, and like I said, we used to volunteer together, just travel the world and be a federal firefighter, and now he's a
Yeah.
chief. But he's had some good gigs, I gotta say,
Yeah.
and I'm watching on social media. I'm like, damn it, this guy's freaking lobster fishing again today. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing wrong here?
Yeah.
But it's cool. But listen, you just from getting to know you over social media and here today or tonight, I'd definitely say you're on the track to do some good things. So just got to keep stay focused and
Yeah. We'll see where I got a couple more years in the military and then
yeah,
see where my life takes me from there.
yeah, absolutely,
But
absolutely. Kara,
Yes.
you look like you
Um,
were getting ready to say something. So.
no, I just, we're obviously all very proud of Joe and appreciative of his service to the country and the service that he continues to provide to our community. And I think, it's it's great to have someone like Joe on the program that can speak to his experience as a young member in the volunteer fire service. I think it's really valuable information and really good for people to hear. So I appreciate him coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The only other the only other guest that I've had as young as yourself, it was not even in the U.S. I had Tomer he's an Israeli firefighter, and he's in the Israeli military, and he was on one of the early round tables that I did, just out of the blue, contacted me. He said, "Hey, I'd love to be on the round table," and I'm like, but I mean, this kid, obviously it's a little bit different world over there.
Sure.
He had a lot of experience for his age, just in some of the things, just in the differences of life. But it's great to talk to somebody and have somebody on here that can speak to, that younger experience, that coming in as age restricted, getting a mentor, working with somebody. I think that there's a lot of people that on both sides of the fence that will learn something from this. That hopefully our younger listeners get something from it. Listening about your journey, and hopefully those of us that don't think we can be taught anything anymore learn something from it as well.
And yeah, that was kind of the goal. Like, whether it's, I don't know how many younger listeners you have that are new to the fire service, but I'm sure they can pick up something, or those guys that, every department has those younger members that need somebody so there's somebody out there to mentor everybody. But
Absolutely.
I hope somebody learned something from this, and I hate to talk about myself. So
no, you're great. No, it was awesome. No. So, Kara, any parting comments?
I think just, especially in the time of COVID, and I know a lot of areas
I almost forgot. I forgot about COVID for the last hour and 12 minutes.
For the last hour and a half. It was nice, wasn't it? Here I am to bring it back up again. But, a lot of sports and clubs and things like that are canceled or put on hold until, however, especially with schools getting started back up in various ways now, those kinds of opportunities for youth are not as prevalent. And I think it's a great time for fire departments, because we do have the ability to, within the parameters of COVID safety, take on new members and still do training. It's a great time to reach out to the junior age members or youth members or explorer age, whatever your terminology is, in your community, and offer them an opportunity to start, because there are a lot of those other things are not available and open to them right now. So it's a really good time. You don't have those sports conflicts or after school programming conflicts that you normally had. So I encourage volunteer departments or career departments to reach out to youth and, spark that interest early.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. No, I'm serious. You're right. Good. It's a good point, because it's just, things are just so different right now, and people, people are going a bit stir crazy, and somebody that might not have thought about getting involved might,
right,
and take on something that they didn't think about doing and actually enjoy it and, stick with it. So yeah, very good. Very good
part
point.
of the brotherhood.
Yep, for sure. Well, we didn't get to talk about deer hunting or squirrels, but we'll do that. We'll do that. I know that upset Kara a little bit, but we'll do that. Do that on the next one.
Sure.
We'll dive into that a little bit more. But Joe, again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time, and good luck in your future endeavors. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again. And again, thank you for your service to the country. We all appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on this thing. So I've listened to all the episodes, so I'm a huge fan. But
we
thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.